Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you all being here. Excited about getting going here with our bye week, and thought we had a good week. What we do every Monday morning after a bye week, we go back and evaluate what we did, as we do everything around here, and we kind of like what we did. We got some rest with our players. Got to jump on the game plan, got a couple practices in, so and guys got to get ahead in school a little bit or get caught up, whichever position they were in. And so I think for the most part it went really well. Injury-wise, Jimmy Hunt and Darius White, we think they have a greater than 50% chance of playing. I guess that's the best way to put it. And as we put them back up as starters, we'll know for sure by Thursday where they're at. But we're hopefully they'll be ready to play. Morgan Stewart is still not ready yet, and really that's kind of where we are from an injury standpoint. Georgia's a very, very good football team. You know, great respect for Mark and the job he's done there, and so you know, it's about playing our best football and playing a really, really good football team that's playing well. So we're excited about getting going. Excited about being in the zoo at 11 o'clock on Saturday, and everybody wear gold out there and crank it up.
Coach, what's the plan to stop Gurley? I mean, you had a couple backs go for 100 on you, and obviously he's probably the best back you've seen. So.
Well, you've made that a very depressing type question. So, golly, he's a great player. Got great respect for him. He's strong. He breaks tackles really well, and that's the thing that to me really makes him really difficult to contain. And you're not going to stop him. What you're going to do is you're going to try to contain him. You do it through gap integrity, playing well up front in the defensive line. In other words, don't allow big holes to open up. Obviously, got to play very physical against real good offensive football line, an offensive line, and you got to tackle well and pursue well. And so those things all sound great talking about it, but you got to do it. And we recognize it's a great challenge, but we're excited about the opportunity. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really remember that. Really hadn't really thought about it that respect. But he's a bigger back. And he's got size and he's got great speed and combination of everything. It's kind of like I have not seen everybody play in the country, but I can't imagine another back being better than he is.
How much you depend on a guy like Michael Sarah to kind of direct the defense, make sure you don't gaps and everything like that?
Well, every player, we got a gap defense, so everybody's got responsible for a gap. And then, when you take care of your gap, you go help with somebody else. And so, gap integrity is making sure that you're physical at the point of attack. And that applies for, everybody, defensive line, linebackers, safeties, and sometimes corners. So, that's something that you work hard on. Michael's doing well. And I think that Contrell had probably his best game the last game, and so I think that it's again, it's going to be a great challenge for those. But if you're a competitor, which our guys are, it's a great opportunity for you, and you look forward to playing great teams and great players. And this is a great player we're playing against.
Before the South Carolina game, you talked about Contrell having the best game he's played here. Was he up to a little bit of a slow start this year? And if so, how important was it to get him going against South Carolina ahead of this Georgia team?
No, I think he was playing well, but I think what you do is we just create a real high standard. We want you. You're playing really good, but we think you can play up here, and and Coach, I think I can too. And so I think that's that's kind of how you motivate players. And it wasn't like he was playing poor in any way, but we have an expectation level for every player, and that's what counseling about. That's what talking to players are about, but he's a great competitor and he wants to be good too. So we're excited he's playing well.
Coach, I know you've talked a bit about Michael Shearer, been asked about him about. Is there a certain quality or trait that stands out most about him that's attributed to his success so far? I think
he's got maturity for his age. I think to be able to do what he's doing. I think that really kind of sets him apart a little bit. But he's strong in every. He's very bright. He's a tough competitor. He can run. He's strong. He's got of all the ingredients that you have to be a really good linebacker. He's worked hard and he's developed in all those areas. And obviously, he just needs more experience and more experience. The more experience you get, the quicker things you can react to things. But I think maturity level allows you to probably become your best quicker than some other guys might. And I think that's he's in line with doing it that way.
Maturity level and understanding for the game, was that something you had before you got here?
Maturity level? No, yeah, different kids. There's cross range of maturity level of kids nowadays, and I don't even get me on talking about that. Okay, so what's that? Well, I think a little bit. You know, everybody's raised a little bit different. I mean, some kids are a little bit more mature. Some kids, when you get here, they're mature. Then all of a sudden, not as mature. Then the maturity level just elevates really fast. Some takes 2-3 years, and seriously. And then, you know, guys average, and all of a sudden it becomes a great player. But generally, what's happened is just matured enough to get through it. So, you know, some kids are brought up different, and some kids just have it and don't have it, and some that's part of our program to help teach it.
Coach, having to sit in between these two significant games here, how difficult is it to come out and be ready to play?
It should not. There's no excuses. It should be not difficult at all. I mean, there's none. I mean, in some respects, it should be. You're fresh, ready to go. So I think it could be a positive. But bye weeks fall where they fall, and you just adjust around it. That's why we talk about the schedule, and we hang it up in January, and I talk about it in March once and August once to explain the schedule. Where's it at? What's set? And that's our goals, and it's not going to change. And we got to be ready to play each and every week our best football game. And so I think that's what you go back to on times like this. Actually, the bye, I think, was at a very good time. We play 4 games in a bye and plays 3 more in this league. I think that's a pretty good setup. You'd probably take it every year.
How important has Bud Sasser been for you, and maybe what's allowed him to be so successful this year?
Making some big plays. I was kidding the other day. I said, we should have thrown you the ball more. And he agreed with me. Last year I was talking about. So he's rising to the occasion, and not only, catching the ball and getting open, that kind of things, but he's made some big plays. As in last week's game, he made obviously a huge football play in that game that kind of from a momentum standpoint changed everything.
You've had a lot of kids over the years that you've talked about, their 4th, 5th year, kids who have kind of waited their turn, and is that a little more unusual? I mean, a lot of kids come in campus, true freshmen. Bud's a guy that was here 3 or 4 years before he really got a chance to make his mark. Yeah, he did, and he just happened to be in here at a time when we had just a cluster of I think real high level receivers, and and the great thing about it, he maintained a great attitude, and and he caught a bunch of balls last year, but I mean he's catching, he's playing at a very high level. I mean, and as good as anybody we had last year. So it just, I think that's part of your program. And honestly, if he comes in another time, he might be playing as a sophomore, starting as a sophomore. It's just different. The thing he did is he made the best of it with a great attitude, kept working hard, and now he's reaping the benefits of that hard work.
Were you able to pinpoint some of the problems the passing game was having those first 3 quarters or so with South Carolina?
I think it was a combination of everything. I think I think our protection was better in that game than it's been for a while. I think obviously you have all those receivers hardly played at all except for one guy. I mean, all of them, very little experience. And there's no excuses, but if you're Matty back there as a young quarterback, and you know one guy really well, and the others you really have not been in the heat of the battle with, I would certainly have that effect on him. So he would say that that we got to run better. I mean, we would say that we've got to run better routes and get open better, and make catches, and he would say I gotta make better throws. And so I think it's a combination of all those things. I also think. That's kind of, I don't really want to talk about the game very much, but that's kind of where we see it.
Matt, I mean, he had probably his worst stretch with you guys, that 4 for 21 stretch in there. What is, how self-critical is he when he goes to watch film in terms of evaluating and trying to get better? And do you worry at all about him bouncing back from a performance like that?
Well, I first of all, I don't want to talk about that game, okay? Because I told my players I don't want to talk about that game. That was a long time ago, okay? He's working hard to get better, okay? I should have stopped it before, so.
But do you worry at all about him rebounding, though?
I expect him to work hard to get better, like everybody.
Have you guys given it? I mean, if you beat Georgia, you've got firm control of your own destiny in the SEC East. Is it too early to think about?
No, we don't think about it. This is our second conference game. My goodness. I mean, this is just one at a time, irregardless of listening to all you go one at a time. And that's the best way that I know how to do it, and that's would be wise if we all did it that way. The league is too good, and I think you all experienced that last Saturday.
Losing Anthony necessitated moving some guys around on the offensive line. Just with that unit, how advantageous is it to have a couple of weeks and maybe get guys a little bit more solid on new assignments?
Well, I think overall, I think we perform well. I think their defensive front is very, very strong. They're strong up inside. They got speed rush guys like we have on the outside, which create a lot of problems. So very, very good, great inside linebacker. I think it's the more they play together, the better it's going to be. And sometimes you don't like moving guys around a lot, but you also do it because you think if and when you do it, there's a necessity to do it. And for Connor to go inside, for him, that was not, he played a whole year in there. He played right next to Evan the whole time, so that was not much of an adjustment for him at all. And Brad McNulty, I think, certainly played pretty good. And so I think for the most part, we did pretty good, and Taylor did a good job at first start on his side too.
About Matty, sometimes it's easy to forget he's only a sophomore, but the poise that he displayed the other week, how has he grown in just his second year?
I think you grow and mature. I think if you look just from a standpoint of the it factor is 2 weeks ago he get the ball on the 6-yard line, drives us down, cut 2 or 3 third down throws to get us down to the 20-yard line. We kick a field goal. Game was in position to end. Obviously they went down and scored. They deserved to win because they finished. But he put us in position to win. And the same thing in the next game. He put us in position to win the game. And obviously there's got to be people around him, great defense and everything else. But, I think that's kind of his M.O. That's what he does. And he's a great competitor. And he just wants to be a complete player. I think that's it, and we'll work real hard to get there.
You mentioned during training camp a couple times that Lucas Vincent was playing as well as he's ever played here. 5 games into the season, what have you seen from him? Has he been able to translate that from training camp to the field?
Yeah, I think Lucas is playing really well. I think we're playing well inside overall. I think we're we can certainly always get better. I think Harold Brantley's playing at a higher level now. He's got his weight back up. He's about 290 now, and so because he'd been sick, and so I think Josh Augusta's doing a good job in there. Matt Hoke has had that injury he's been battling with, but I think he'll be 100%. Ricky Hadley plays in there also, so I think for the most part, but I think he's doing a good job. We always like to play a lot of players in there, and so he's getting at least 50-50 in there, and I think that we're pleased, and this is going to be a great test for our defensive line also. I mean, we all know the importance of playing well up front in big games, on both sides of the football, and this is obviously a big game.
He's gotten a little pressure on the quarterback some too. I mean, what areas have you seen him kind of really make strides between last year and this year?
Well, I think he's playing at a higher competitive level than he's ever played, probably because he feels more confident. And he also, I think, is utilizing fundamentals that he's taught. I mean, those positions, there's a lot of combat going on in there, but I mean, there's a lot of. You just go watch our Coach Kuligowski work with our defensive line, all the drill work and the fundamentals and techniques of pass rush and those kind of things. There are all kinds of different techniques, and I think, it's just through skill development and working hard that I think he's developing those, and I think he's, generally when you're playing better, you carry him over better on the field, and he's also getting more opportunities this year because he's older and he's more experienced.
At this point of the year, can you kind of look around at the rest of the teams in the SEC and say, well, they might be a little better than we thought we were, or they might be a little worse than we thought they were, or do you kind of try to avoid that?
I don't try to. I just don't do it. I focus on what we need to do. That's what I do. I got enough problems this week, let alone thinking about all the other ones that are out there.
Russell Hansborough's missed stretches of the first 5 games with minor injuries. How do you feel like he's doing health-wise?
Who's that? I'm sorry. Russell Hansborough.
How do you feel like he's doing health-wise? Because have to back off a little bit to make sure he stays.
I think every running back about Russell Hansborough he's had some nagging injuries. In that position that happens a lot. You're not going to feel good every time you play. And what was great this week is he got to get refreshed a little bit, and I think that was good. But for the most part, I think he's been playing well. Did some real good things in our last game, and Murph is also, and so it's a pretty good 1-2 punch there. Ish, we're getting in a little bit. We got a few reps last week, but staying healthy there at that position and rotating people through. That I think it helps us. So it's a combination of doing that and watching how many touches they have or that they're getting enough touches.
How is this team different with Hudson Mason at quarterback compared to Aaron Murray? Obviously, pretty been a 4-year starter and been there forever. So, do you notice differences with the offense compared to last year?
Well, I think that they're just leaning on the run a lot more. I mean, they're running the ball well. That's what they do. They stick to it. They do a lot of play action passes, which fit perfect. Everybody trying to stop Gurley, and you pull the ball back out, and then linebackers are up, and you hit him in seams. And so I think he's doing well. I think he's doing a good job, and that's their philosophy, and that's smart. I mean, that's I think they have a real good offensive plan, and it's working well. And when you got a player like that, I think that's obviously the right way to go.
Coach, if there's one word to describe Todd Gurley, what would it be?
I'm too basic a person to get into this, so I just think he's a great player. That's 2 words.
What was one word to describe and the other word was the noun? Anyway, sorry. Well, when you look back at the Georgia game last year, we kind of going back to Bud. I mean, the touchdown pass he threw. I mean, does that play take on, I guess, even more significance in retrospect to you than it did kind of in the moment, just kind of looking back at it?
I don't look back a lot. I apologize. I just don't. I've never seen the. I never watched the game on TV. I never go back and look at any game on TV that we played, ever. I just look at even when the season's over. I don't do it. We remember that big play made, but you got 2 different teams. You got a bunch of guys that left. They had a bunch of guys left, and you got 2 different football teams. Obviously, your program is what it is, and they got a great program. And Bud's very versatile. I mean, he can do a lot of different things.
I know you said that Darius and Jimmy Pryor have a better than 50% chance of coming back, but in that last game when they weren't available, what did you think of Lawrence and Gavin and Wesley?
Well, I think overall they did a good job. I think that Nate Brown's in there too, and I think they did a good job. I mean, I think they it's just and that's a heck of an arena to be in. So I think for the most part they did a good job, and they're going to get better, and I think they're very talented. But the passing game, the intricacies of routes, depth, quarterback knowing you're going to break this way instead of that way, and know the direction you're going to come out of the break, or you're going to stop when you come out, or you're going to sit in the hole. There's just so many little subtle things, and that's the things you have to do if you want to become a real good passing game. So those are things we're constantly working on all the time.
Coach, your quarterback has said that he prefers playing earlier in the day as opposed to later in the afternoon. Do you get a sense that a lot of your players share that sentiment? I
think every player and coach in the country would rather get up and play at 11 o'clock in the morning or noon. They want to get over instead of agonizing all day long watching all this stuff happen. I think every coach, you ask any one of our coaches or players, almost all of them would sit there and say, let's get up and play. Let's get going. So I don't ever look at it that way. Whatever it is, a couple weeks down the road, we're going to be playing at 7 o'clock at night. So it is what it is. And most important thing, there's a huge difference in playing at 7 o'clock at night and playing at 11 o'clock in the morning. You wake up, you have pregame meal at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and so you better be ready. The second you bounce out of bed, you better have your head right to play. You don't get any Saturday to work on getting yourself ready to play at all. And so there's a big difference, and we talk and place an emphasis with our football team. It's 2 completely different things, and it's all about preparation. So there's a responsibility that you have a little bit different on Friday night than you normally would if you have a night game at 7 or 8 o'clock.
Coach, with going back to the young receivers, with Wesley making that big catch in a real key situation, could that be pretty valuable experience if you have to rely on him?
I think anytime you make a big play and make a great catch, I think that your confidence level just surges. I don't care who you are out there. And that's especially as a young player, I think it does, and it's it's great to see him make a play like that, and he's working hard to continue to get better also.
Gary, if you have Darius White and Jimmy Hunt available Saturday, how does that change your offensive strategy?
Well, we got to call our offense the way we do. I mean, I think that's the most important. We're not going to all of a sudden become an I formation football team and run the ball 70 times a game, so it's 60 times a game. So that's not going to happen. We do it. We've always done that. I think you adjust a little bit. Calkins in there. You can use him a little bit more, possibly. If our running back situation a little bit different, you can use Murphy at wide receiver a little bit. So we just have to weigh all those things and adjust accordingly. But those other guys are going to get better too, and we got to trust that they're going to get better, and they will,
You mentioned the new offensive line having deep chemistry with Matty. Does that apply to the running backs too? Is that any easier for them?
I think that's just a trust thing. You expect them to do a good job, and Matty, having a new offensive line too in protection, that's something that's a confidence thing you kind of earn and you get. But I think for the most part that everybody's just got to trust one another. It's a big thing about playing. You got to play your best, and you got to deliver, and you got to take care of your responsibility. Get your job done. Everybody gets their job done. That's what you focus on. That's then you have a good chance at playing well.
Looked like you shuffled your two deep a little before SC moved Kenny. How did you feel about your secondary play against SC?
I thought we did okay. Against a really good offensive football team. So, it's that was a pretty intense game. So I think for the most part we did a good job.
Taylor Chaplin in particular. I mean, that's a pretty tough environment to make your first start. You said you thought the protection was pretty good. About him specifically, I mean, how do you feel like he handled that moment?
I thought he played well. I really did. And for the first start, played physical. We'll certainly have different tests each and every week that you always face. But the offensive line in general, I just think, played with a lot of poise, in a place where you couldn't hear anything. And, no penalties, no jumping off sides in critical situations. To be able to do that, anywhere, and that's certainly positive. But there's reasons why it happens, and it's because you're remarkably focused, and you train so that you can play in situations like that. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.